lost in his deep-set, russet-colored eyes. But that was a long time ago. If she was being honest, sometimes it felt as if it had been yesterday. She rolled her eyes and folded her arms across her chest. For good measure, she let out a ragged sigh. It annoyed her to no end to see so much hoopla directed toward Dante simply because he'd become a superstar in Hollywood. It wasn't as if he'd been awarded a Pulitzer Prize, cured cancer, or run into a burning building to save people. He acted in action movies and dated empty-headed starlets. Hadn't she just seen him plastered all over one of the scandal rag tabloids with Missy North, the famous reality star? That in itself spoke volumes. Missy was known for being as deep as a kiddie pool. She happened to be drop-dead gorgeous, Lucy conceded. She imagined most men would jump through hoops to be the special someone in Missy's life. Even though Dante had been a big celebrity for at least 5 years now, Lucy still couldn't believe he'd come back to their hometown to film his next movie. It was probably one of those action flicks with a testosterone-laced name like Maximum Overdrive or Total Impact. Lucy had done her best to tune out all the fanfare surrounding Dante's return, a near impossible feat in a town that had gone crazy over Mistletoe's golden boy. Mistletoe wasn't exactly a happening place like Los Angeles, and to her knowledge, he'd avoided his hometown like the plague ever since leaving for the big lights of Hollywood. He'd only come back briefly for his father's burial. Lucy had gotten a glimpse of him that day at the cemetery. It had been easy to avoid coming face to face with him since she'd deliberately remained in the background and skipped the reception. Dante West, movie star, Mistletoe's favorite son. Her former BFF. The only man she'd ever truly loved. She felt a little pang in her heart as his face flashed before her eyes. Lucy squeezed her eyes shut, reminding herself that she'd buried their relationship firmly in the past. Revisiting it only brought her pain. Seeing the town of Mistletoe celebrate the man who'd ripped her heart to shreds felt like a betrayal. After all, she'd been a loyal resident, while he'd made a life for himself far away from the shores of Maine. Celebrity was a hard thing to ignore, Lucy realized, and she shouldn't expect an entire town to harbor resentment against Dante for the way he'd treated her. She remembered all the mayhem that erupted a few years ago when Dante landed on the cover of People magazine's Sexiest Man Alive issue. Every red-blooded woman in the United States had been drooling over him. Sure, he was eye candy, but he didn't have a loyal bone in his body. The way he'd turned his back on his family and his hometown didn't sit well with her. "And you," a little voice buzzed in her ear. "Don't forget the way he treated you." She shook off the bad thoughts, determined to focus on the things that truly mattered for the duration of Dante's stay in Mistletoe. She'd built a nice life for herself, one she could be proud of. Her job as a librarian fulfilled her. It meant so much to her that she'd spent every waking hour trying to find a way to save it from town cutbacks and a downturn in donations. In addition to loving her career, she also had great friends and family. Sure, her family was a bit all over the place at times, but when push came to shove, they stood together as a united front. Which was why it was somewhat surprising to see her parents, Walt and Leslie, along with her little sister Tess, standing in the throng outside, hailing Dante as a conquering town hero. Lucy sputtered at the sight of her close friend Eva Langston bundled up in a pink parka and matching hat. "Traitors, one and all," she whispered. "Trust me, he's not that special." Problem was, he had been. Once upon a time, Dante had been the sun, moon, and stars in Lucy's life. She knew she was being petty, but it hurt to remember how things had been before he'd hightailed it off to Hollywood without a word of goodbye. At certain times, it seemed like she'd dreamed it all. But Lucy knew she hadn't made up all the memories she couldn't seem to shake. Sledding down MacArthur's Mountain.